And we are live. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to episode 2 of the Ball Habatim. We are talking Max basketball, and I'm joined as usual by the grizzled vet, former Mac, the master of disaster, Natan Cohn. And we got with us our resident stat head, a.k.a. the professor, a.k.a. the Admor of Analytics, Rabbeinu Shua Shlita. We got the OG, a.k.a. the D3 Dayan, a.k.a. the guy who was into all of this before it was cool, Moshe Kolat. And we're joined by the Yaakov of all trades, a.k.a. the man on the street. We got the one and only Yaakov Sachs off camera. He'll be with us in a second. And finally, we got the bandwagon boys. It's Simi Cohen and myself, Ari Lamb. And of course, as always, we have the one and only, the mighty, mighty Mayor Wiesel on the ones and twos, engineering us straight to the moon. And as Mayor always tells me to tell you, please like and subscribe to our channel. We are recapping all the games, previewing the big ones. And right now, boys, this is a Maskil Bignus Messiah B'Shevach space right now. And boy, is there some gnus to talk about. So let's kick this off. Moshe, top line thoughts on how you're feeling after a game like this.
First things first, we got kicked. We got punched in the stomach, and we have to come right back on Sunday. It's a good thing it's a quick turnaround because it's an opportunity, but it teaches us a lesson. A loss was definitely something that we may have needed to just kind of knock us off our perch a little bit. And IWU was incredibly prepared, and they executed their game plan to perfection. And we did not, and we blew some opportunities. And I hope we can come right back up and pick ourselves up and doesn't push us down further.
I mean, the biggest thing that you noticed, I mean, I think all of us noticed, right, coming into this game was IWU has been here before and YU has not. I think the biggest factor, there's no question, at least I think, and we'll get into this, there's no question we have the talent to be on the floor with this team. There's no question. They came out ready to play. They were in our grills. They were in our faces. They were running harder for everything. They were more physical. They were hounding the glass. I mean, Shua, you can bring the stats in, but what are we looking at from a gut punch perspective? How did this gut punch shake out numbers wise?
Yeah, so we were absolutely dominated on the glass. Every missed shot of ours, there was basically no YU player in sight to grab the rebound. And every time IW missed a shot, there were multiple players there battling for the offensive rebound. I don't know the exact number on the rebounding margin. I know at one point it was 31-11, 9-3 on the offensive glass. I think we cut it down a little bit at the end. Matt Blair set apparently IWU all-time record for rebounds in a single game. And we, in terms of second chance points, we are outscored 14-1. And we talked about a game that the final margin was 14. That tells the story.
Yeah, I mean, guys, just definitely feel free to jump in. But I just, Ryan Scott, who we have coming on the pod and on the show, I believe tomorrow, who's going to help us preview the upcoming game on Sunday against Williams. As Ryan Scott, one of the big D3 experts and a top 25 voter, just tweeted a second ago. I said before the game, if both teams play their A game, I think Yeshiva wins. I still believe that. The question we've always had with Yeshiva is how infrequently they need their A game and how hard it is to find. I hope they learned a lot tonight. I think that basically sums it up. We have never had to find our A game this quickly, this hard. And this felt like, I think Moshe, you said this in our internal prep. This really felt like the D3 establishment. It
wasn't me. It wasn't me, but I did just notice that we've never shot 3 pointers this poorly before. That's a huge part of our game.
Yeah,
and when you can't do that, you can't win the game, along with the layups and everything else.
I actually think it was Engineer Mayer who made that point, right?
It's probably
this was the D3 establishment. I mean, we were coming into this a little bit like prima donnas, not in a character sense, but we were coming to this riding high with all the attention, and this was the D3 establishment just slapping us down and putting us in our place, and boy, did we deserve it. So, I mean, Simi, as a fellow member of the Bandwagon Boys, how do we stay on this wagon?
I think, Bob warned us. He's like, you guys might see this team is different, like after a few minutes of watching his team play. And I mean, that couldn't have been more true. This team is different than the teams we've played. We didn't play our A game. I actually agree with Ryan Scott on that. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Like, I think we all have seen like what the team looks like when they're playing their A game, and we didn't see that tonight. But I give a lot of credit to this team. I mean, man, they are good, and I heard a lot about Laritz being, the best center in D3, and Lambesis is great on defense. And that's kind of what I knew going into the game as someone who didn't know too much about them. But they all played well. They've got 5 guys between 10 and 15 points. Their main 5 starters. Excuse me, there's like a siren outside. But and the rebounding. Oh my God, Laritz had 25 rebounds. We as a team had 21. So it was 42-21, and Laritz had 25 of those rebounds. I mean, that was the story right there. And then the fact that the other thing is that they started off so hot, like they just were shooting the lights out. And because of the buildup and the anticipation and the electricity, and you could feel it all day, not even in the stadium, like in the world, like anyone who's paying attention to this on Twitter, you feel it. And all this hype. And then for them to come out and make it was like a statement, to go ahead like they did. And I don't think that we handled that well from like a mental toughness perspective at all. Like, we were rattled. And Ari, you've said this before, like, you can get under our skin, like you can get under YU skin. It wasn't even done through like necessarily like physicality, although that was a huge part of the game. They were a very physical team, and we kind of expected that coming in. But just from the fact that they took the lead that they did and hit all the shots that they did, when you combine being good with being lucky, hitting it up that level of like 70% or whatever they were shooting for the entire first half, it's just you have to be really mentally tough to come back from that and to take it one possession at a time, and not to try to hit a 25-pointer, which you can't do, and not to just play hero ball. And we didn't do a good job of that. We didn't see YU's best effort. And yet, with all the starters on the floor for both teams in the second half, we did outscore them. We could definitely hang with them. So I think like that's definitely a big takeaway for me. We could hang with them. As bad as the game looked and as it felt, because we all kind of were hoping to win and look great and whatever, at least there's that takeaway. Like we did hang with them, and we've got another opportunity on Sunday, and that's a huge game now, because we got to win that game. Like, they need to come out like fired up to win that game. Because it's everything.
I'm not ready to move on yet, Simi. I'm not ready to talk about Williams yet.
Well, Nathan,
I know you want to.
Yeah.
I know we want to go to like something that could be positive, but
Nathan, you were there live. Give us the feeling from on the ground, man on the street.
Yeah.
Beckner, how was it?
I'm gonna try to be sort of not my usual self, and try to be a little succinct here. Listen, let's every stat that we're talking about, those are the effort stats, right? The effort intensity stats are exactly what you see come off the page. The rebounds, the percentage shooting for Illinois Wesleyan. Again, it's just the intensity was there, and it was a tale of two halves. There was, outside of Lasco, there was no intensity on defense or even on offense with hard cuts and sort of making them play up even hard. But let's give. I mean, Illinois Wesleyan. That is a unbelievably well-coached team. They're in the right spots, the right places at all times. Their defense, man-to-man, individual defense. I've never seen a on-ball defender like P. Lambesis, and it was a pleasure to watch him up close. And he was frustrating, Ryan Terrell. It was the first time I've ever seen Ryan visibly frustrated in a way that he was actually looking to the refs at times for help, which usually doesn't happen. And I think he made a commitment in the second half on defense. It led to offense. He saw some sparks, and like some people said, they played better in the second half. But really, that was a physical team that we have never seen before, and they played exactly the way they're coached to play. and they executed perfectly. They didn't even get into a press, Shua. They didn't even have to press. They really didn't have to press. They played the on-ball half-court defense to perfection.
And you know what this felt like to me? This felt like the beginning. I mean, I said this earlier to you guys. This felt to me like the beginning of Rocky IV. This felt like world champ Rocky Balboa strutting into the. Honestly, it felt like Apollo Creed walking into the ring with the flags and Neil Diamond going off and all that stuff. And calm, cool, collected, quiet. Ivan Drago comes in and rocket launcher punches us in the face and absolutely clobbers us. And you know what? This felt like, I think you're right, Natan. This felt like you kind of just go up to Pete Lambesis after this game, or honestly, forget Pete Lambesis. Ryan Sroka, someone you guys will have the stats. Ryan Sroka came in, knocked down. What did he shoot, like 20 for 20 from three? The guy just knocked down a bunch of killer threes that took the win. Anytime we got on a little mini run, he just took the win right out of our sails. And to be honest with you, looking at Laritz, I mean, Nata, maybe you saw something different in person. I wasn't like blown away by Laritz. I mean, he crushed us on the glass, but we've been crushed on the glass before. I didn't come into this being like, yeah, Laritz is the best 4 or 5 we've ever seen. What I saw was a bunch of guards from IWU who got on our grills, who knocked down shots, and who out-physicaled us and out-mental toughnessed us from jump. And, I mean, the question now...
They didn't have to play through it. They didn't have to play through it.
YU's game plan was to take away Laird, and it was pretty clear. They doubled hard on him, so he didn't look necessarily that great from an offensive perspective, but all the rest of the open looks came out of the fact that YU's strategy was to take Laird out of the game and give credit to the rest of the team that they executed. But
their depth is great.
The takeaway wouldn't be that Laird isn't as good as
no, I mean, if you were there, watch him without the ball. I mean, it's unreal. And he plays. There was a play late in the game, really late in the game when it didn't matter anymore. But Gabe actually stole the ball and was going in for a layup, with about a couple minutes left. And you saw him get back in front of him and position his body perfectly. The fans were shouting for fouls all game, but that happened time and time again, where they positioned themselves well and made shots difficult, and YU didn't convert. Laritz also, I think, every time he touched the ball, led to a basket. Or if not, when he got it down low and put it up, I think maybe he missed 1 or 2. I remember one that he just looked up too hard over the basket, and he got blocked a couple times. But for the most part, he really put everything in from close in. He's that good. He's the real deal. But he didn't have to. He didn't have to take over the game because it may be that we were picking to leave, not let Laritz beat us, but we didn't get out on 3. We didn't close out on anybody in the first half. They didn't close out on a single player.
Their bench was very good. He kept subbing them in. He got his guys rest at crucial moments. Their reserves were coming in and just subbing out their guys.
It's only hockey lines, right? For the first 5 minutes of the game, there were 9 players that played in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now, on the contrast, right? I mean, you guys, I don't know if you guys were thinking this while you're looking. We were talking in the stands about, how deep was Elliott going to go? And he really, outside of a deep played heavy minutes in the end of the second half.
Yeah, I was surprised.
But outside of that, it was only 7 players deep, and they were short stints even for Matan. And again, Matan couldn't be effective against that lineup because he wasn't getting the offensive boards, which is really his game. And he couldn't, and we were down.
He wasn't getting his cuts.
To slow.
And they were just ignoring him when he was on.
Everybody looked gassed. I don't know if you could tell this from the.
Yeah, they looked rusty.
From the thing, they looked gassed. They were just exhausted. Gabe specifically, but the whole team looked tired. Lasco, I keep going back to this. He played a hell of a game. I was so impressed.
I think a lot of it was because it was rust, though. He hadn't had game action.
Well, I mean, but here's this again. I don't know if we're done with our Gnus yet, but if I had to, I'm not even taking this to a positive yet. But one thing that kind of gave me a little bit of hope was Lasco was playing a different game than anyone else in the Max. He was just coming in with a different mindset completely. And I think it might be because Lasco has seen this kind of intensity in action before, just playing at a different level. And, Jordan also, you could argue, but Lasco's definitely seen this, and he came in with the kind of intensity that we needed from Go. And you can see in the beginning, both in the beginning and at the end, he was making plays, he was getting stops, he was taking charges, he was getting to the basket. I think
he was great defensively, and he happened to miss layups, and it happens, but it stinks, and it
And
was
he missed
crucial.
a couple wide open threes.
Wide up.
Everyone missed wide open threes. And contested
What
threes.
was the final stat line on that 3-point shooting, Arthur?
We
were
had
0 for
5.
9 in the
I
first
think it
half.
was 5 for 19 or something. What?
We were 5 for 20. Shot
5 for
25 from
5 for
3.
20.
That's a big part of our game.
Yeah.
So 5 for 11
By the
in the
way,
second half.
This isn't the
Okay,
first-
but we
this
dug
isn't
ourselves
the
out a
second
hole
game
already.
they've had
We
in a
couldn't
row
jump
they
back
haven't done
up.
well from three. The NJCU game, they were 0 for 2 from 3-point in the second half. And
Better?
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry.
Look, this was you also, listen, you could see it was all part of it wasn't just mental toughness, although that was a huge part of it. Part of it was intensity in the sense of execution, meaning IWU was what did their homework on us. They did not set one foot towards Matan Zucker when he went anywhere anywhere past the block. They didn't set one foot. They all had watched that. They'd watched that tape.
Jordan too. Same with Jordan.
We've been talking about this as Max fans now for weeks, worrying when somebody gonna notice that. And boy, oh boy, did they notice that.
Yeah.
So
Farmingdale did it earlier in the season. So there's already been a blueprint for it's the Tony Allen move. The teams did the Tony Allen in the playoffs every year.
And it wasn't just that. I think what you have to realize is that not every team, and I guess, listen, hopefully Sunday's game, health-wise and other things goes off the way it's planned. I don't think you're going to see – Williams can watch all the tape that they want. They can't play the way that IWU plays. That they just don't play that way. They don't play with that intensity on defense. They don't play with that positioning. They don't help in the same way that they help. Like, this is how IW plays. You can argue from some of the games that we've watched in the CCIW, like this is how that conference plays. That's how they focus. It's defense. It's all about defense. And the motion offense wasn't really. You had a couple cuts here and there. I wouldn't say it was like NJCU where they weren't running it. They were trying. They were running it. They just couldn't get the space. The passing lanes were closed, which in turn cut the back door wasn't open as much. There were a couple plays here and there where we were able to get it, but really just totally disrupted on offense. And we started, I think, to show signs when we said, okay, we're going to go to the rim. I'm not sure how many fouls they had, maybe 14 fouls or so in the first half. And that's the only way we were getting buckets is by going right to the rim, either on a cut or on a drive. So the adjustment needed to be had. I don't know that we're going to face this kind of team again until it matters again in the tournament.
So we got a question in the chat, and I actually thought this was an interesting play, specifically that tech that got called on Lasco, and he made a great play on defense. He kind of stole the ball, came down with the ball. I don't know if it was a rebound, loose ball. And then he did like a move with his arm. Like and it kind of could have been interpreted as like directed at like someone on the other team or frustration. I thought it was a good technical. I'll be honest with you. I'm like, what are you doing? Come on, you got the ball. Just regroup. My wife did it. I was sitting next to my wife watching it. She was like, what's the ref saying? And I know that the announcers were against it, and I wasn't chatting with you guys during the game, so I'm not sure what you all thought. But like, do you think that was a good tech that was called on Lasco?
I think it was a very fair technical call. It was clearly he lashed out in frustration. My problem with the play was he was clearly fouled by Mitchell from behind. I rewatched the tape. I clipped it. He was fouled. He shouldn't have acted that way. He should have just let it go. But he was fouled. The ref was looking directly at it from like 5 feet away, and he didn't call it, and called the reaction, which he should have. He should have called it. He should have been teed up for that.
He plays
we
a
had
lot
the
of
privilege of sitting next to we had the privilege of sitting next to Lasco's family. So you could tell what their opinion was on the play. But it wasn't just a move. I know you're sort of like a lot of times you'll see guys clear out with a lot of denunciation. He clearly already got control of the ball and was like almost like a passion, excitement, get off me kind of thing, right? You see that in the NFL a lot, right? Sometimes after a tackle, like he literally pushed out, and it's a good call, but Shua is 100%, which is I would have been okay with a tech if you also called a foul on Mitchell right there, because he hit him in the shoulder from behind, and that's when he pushed him, and you got to call both of those. You can't just let that play go and then tee up a guy. You can't do that.
But look, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I think this is where I can jump in here, meaning, hey, we need to realize, like, we hate the NFL refs every day. We hate the NBA refs every day. This is D3 refs. This is 2 games in a row. If we're blaming it on the refs, we're going to lose in the tournament in the first round. We can't do that. On the other hand, you see every day what they were talking about in the NCAA. These guys come down with the rebound and they do the big swinging arms. That happens all the time. It should not have been attacked. This is literally what the guys do to show they're being hanging on. So that was ridiculous. But it didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But the techs do. They make a whole environment for these things. It distraughts the team. It's a big advantage for the other team also.
Yeah, this is not something why you should learn from this. This is something. There was a tweet that YU has some of the worst body language of D3 teams out there, and that was true for this game. It's something historically we kind of pride ourselves on being above that, but this year and this game in particular, it was quite clear that things were getting to them. The physicality was getting to them. They were looking to the refs more than trying to use their talent and their system to try to come back in the game. And their body language was awful. And it's something that they should learn from.
Yeah.
As I like to call it, they had a lot of Julius Randle face.
Yeah,
a lot of it. And guess what? You know what? The refs are not necessarily going to be on their side for whatever reason. So they need to know this going into the game, and they need to be prepared for it. End of story. There's no excuse.
Bottom line, this was a mental toughness issue. If you're a top team, if you want to win a national championship, a guy can come from behind you and foul. You got to keep your cool and take the foul. If you're, meaning Lasco, even Lasco, who was as dialed in as anybody in this game, and he was great. I loved Lasco in this game. But by the end of the game, I mean, he was playing one-on-one with the refs. I mean, he came down the floor. It must have been 3 or 4.
3 possessions in a row.
You know what? You know what? The truth is,
looking for the foul.
The truth is, he got fouled on all 3 of those possessions. There's no question about it. But the refs were not giving it to him, and whether they were not giving it to him because they missed it or on principle, honestly, if you told me if the refs came on this show right now and said we weren't giving it to him on principle, I would say, you know what, fair. Meaning because at that point we were just pulling out the refs to try and stop them, and it's not how you win at the top level. So bottom line is, look, talent wise, and maybe here we can shift a little bit to looking forward, but both to Williams and to thinking about how we learn from this. But bottom line is, what I saw on the floor tonight was, I think we have just as much, if not more, talent than that team. Just pure talent wise, I think we have some advantages over them. But you cannot compare the execution, the conditioning, they were running us off our spots. You saw in the second half, once the conditioning kind of evened out, because IWU was tired as well, we started to really hang with them, be able to play with them, and we outscored them in the second half. But I think looking forward, this is Natan, you said it before the show, this is the kind of thing, if you're going to win a national championship, you're not going to waltz. I think one thing that I was a little Pollyannish about was imagining that you could just waltz into a national championship and stomp everybody by 30 points, but that's not going to happen. So this is exactly the kind of game you want during the regular season. So what are some, let's maybe get started. What are some takeaways if we're being maybe not yet Messiah and B'Shevach, I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for it, but if we're doing some takeaways, what can we learn from this? As someone who was in the gym, Natan, what are you seeing?
I saw that they can make halftime adjustments. right? And I really hope, I think, as I was quoting a Ryan Scott tweet that I probably haven't seen yet, but I completely agree. Meaning, if they don't realize now that you cannot take time off from your most intense, best execution, then, I don't know when they're going to learn it. Because this may be the best team. Honestly, they could win the national championship, and still this might be the best team. Depending on how it falls, this could be the best team that they see all season. If they're that good a team, and I really think that they had some really bright spots with knowing they can play, right? Knowing they can play with these guys, knowing they can make them sort of adjust on defense, which I think you saw in the second half when they started not to just settle for the same things. But if you can't get 2 stops in a row, it's really hard. You got to put together stops, and the defense is where it starts. And I'm not sure if they even solved that in the second half.
Yeah,
this was also one of my biggest takeaways was we now have, after the game on Sunday, we now have, I don't know exactly how many left. We have probably about 12 conference games. We got to get the bench ready to go because we need bench minutes. And it's enough playing these guys 37 minutes a game until it's a blowout. We have to be able to put real bench guys in the first half just to hustle their butt off on defense and do something for a little bit. But because if the other team is doing line changes and going 10 deep, and I don't think many teams will be able to do that, but if some are, we have to be able to at least put in some guys from the bench in real minutes and play. And especially on defense, I don't care if you can score, just go out there and play your butt off on defense for 4.5 minutes.
I mean, we used 8 guys. Wesleyan used 9 guys, but one of them only played 3 minutes. Another one played 8. I mean, I think you could get away with playing 8 guys. I don't know. I hear you. It would be nice to be deep. Like, it would be nice to have more guys that we can trust, like deeper than
can we get away with playing 8 guys? I mean, is that me? I don't think Gabe has the conditioning to play 40 minutes. To play 35 minutes. I don't think I'm not sure we have players who can play that. You have to steal minutes somewhere. How many minutes
these guys look spent, and we got to steal it. We got to steal it somewhere. So if you got to steal it for 5 minutes on defense, fine. But like only defense guys, I don't know. They run around for 5 minutes and play at press, but we got to steal minutes somewhere. That's it.
Yeah. Something I thought was interesting is the conditioning itself, whether it's Gabe or anyone else. Like, why are we gassed? Like, we haven't played in 2 weeks. 15 days, whatever it was, since the NGCU, right? Like, why was that? Were we shooting around?
Is it finals? Is it reading week? Is it like Corona? What's going on?
They practice too much? Like, too
much talent? What's the deal?
Probably too much Mishmar, honestly. It's got to be Mishmar.
And something that stands out.
Yeah, I think Shua's making the point.
Shua, go for it. Well, let's clear out for Shua.
This is the first team we've played this year for sure, and probably since our winning streak started, that made us work for every single inch we got on the offensive side of the court. That's exhausting. We got, even if you're 80, if you're 90, that is tiring to do that. And especially when you go down early in a big hole, then all of a sudden your intensity will ramp up. And
Sure, bring the phone closer to you.
Every single possession.
Perfect.
Yeah. By the way, I got a comment from Twitter from Ezra Stern. He made a good point that the lineup that really seemed to work for us and where we actually outplayed them was a small lineup, meaning small and long. Terrell, Leifer, Lasko, Halpert, and Ofek. And notably, that was when we took any of our kind of traditional bigs out of the game. That was when Armstrong and Matan were both sitting. We had guys, with the exception of Gabe, who can't really run, but it's got great court vision. He's kind of more like a, Jokic. Honestly, like Jokic, I think of as a Yeshiva League player anyway. So like, Gabe's our Jokic. But like that lineup seemed to work a little bit. Notably, it was guys who can run a little bit more and who can all shoot. What do you guys think of that?
But we got killed on rebounds. So I don't know if I buy that. And Armstrong played 9 minutes, which is shocking. I'm looking at the minutes. Armstrong played 9 minutes. He was
a non-factor. He was not a factor.
No rebounds, no points, no assist, nothing. We're 9 minutes, 1 foul.
And he's 60. And what did he do?
And Reef played 22, which is actually kind of low compared to
he
like
came
last
out
year.
3 minutes into both halves. Reef got taken
yeah,
out
where
3
was
minutes
Reef
into
in
both
the game?
halves.
Was that for
Who was,
defense?
by the way, playing better. He was playing better, but you know, I don't. You know, that's where Jordan can spell Gabe. Why should he have to take Laris on, you know, for 5 minutes straight and then try to get the offense? There has to be some sort of balance in a game like this. That's why you play the other guys, steal a minute even for Batesh or two. If you're 0 for 9 on 3 and you're down 20, what are you losing by being able to rotate a guy in?
We've done it in other games,
right? Like I thought I would see a little bit of that.
Problem. This is the problem with Jordan. He's JaVale McGee. It doesn't work when you're down by 12. Once they got down, he's not playable.
But
you're going 4 on 5 on offense.
What they were doing wasn't working either. They got down 12 and then they were down 24.
Agreed, but he wasn't when they're hitting threes. Him being in there makes no difference. But the rebounding margin makes the thing. Maybe he should have played more. You know, I don't know.
Gosh, 42-21. That would
not have happened with him in the game. Yes,
like that.
It would not. Yes, it wouldn't have happened with him.
Actually, Matthew Larrett said it. Matthew Larrett.
Seven boards, 5 offensive. Jordan.
Matthew Larrett set an IWU school record for single game rebounding in this game. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
And by the way, did anybody? I mean, again, you could really tell this when you were there, but you could also tell this, hopefully, on the feed. You didn't see any subs come in when they were up 20 with 3 minutes left.
Nope.
With 2 minutes left.
Nope.
They very much wanted to make a statement about who the number one team, you know, is, and kudos to them. They played. You know, they played their butts off and were, you know, or they took us off, as Bob now knows to say. But I mean, like they were hyped every time out. They were high-fiving Pete on his defense, Leyritz on his rebounding. These guys were into the game from the jump. The entire bench was into the game.
Did you hear our bench? Because I couldn't hear our bench.
It wasn't the same. It was not the same. It was not the same on the YU side. We were shell-shocked from the first 5 minutes and never recovered mentally from that. Halftime got an adjustment that you saw, and a couple players started to pick up their intensity, but it was too little too late. I hope they realized they belong, but it was, yeah, they couldn't win that game the way they played. I'm not sure if IW shot much worse in the second half than they shot in the first half.
They did. They shot a lot.
They did. Yeah. Look, they were playing for the number 1 seed, and they got it. They're gonna get their number 1 ranking now. That's it. So they weren't taking out their guys no matter what, and it looks closer than it was, honestly.
But I'm glad they didn't take their starters out, because then when we cut the lead, we could say it wasn't against their second team.
But you should know they
against their starters.
I didn't mean to cut you off. They killed the clock a lot in the second half. I think that cut into their field goal percentage because they weren't always needing to hit a basket. It was more taking the 30 seconds.
They play that way.
Only the last 4 minutes or so. Only the last 4 minutes, but that's CCIW. Guys, I'll give you a tidbit that you probably couldn't hear from where you were. So there was when YU started cutting back into lead a little bit. I think they got it down to like 14. It was 73-59 or somewhere close to that. And there was a foul that stopped play, and they went to a TV timeout. Leyritz walked over to the coach before the rest of the players sort of gathered back at the bench and said, "Sub all these guys out."
Wow.
He was mentally, and he basically said, because you know these guys were pushing. It was after, I don't know if you saw, it was a couple back cuts, right, with layups for Eitan, and Leyritz just went over before those guys got back there, and he goes, "Sub everybody out." And basically, they put in all new 4. They got the starters back in.
The hockey line.
I'm telling you, these guys
they did their line change.
And they wanted this. They wanted it. They wanted to win, though. I mean, they wanted to win, and they wanted to win going away. And they had that attitude. It was pretty cool to see.
That's clear. They came to New York for a reason. It wasn't goal line.
They took care of business. It was a business trip. They took care of business. That's all.
Yeah. Listen, this was like I said, this was Rocky Balboa. This is Rocky IV performance. This is Ivan Drago. They came in and kicked our tuchuses on behalf of the entire Division III. And I think that's really the story. And you know what? That's exactly what they should have done. Because if you're a top team, if you want to be the best, you want to beat the best, we came in ready for a coronation, and not to put too fine a point of it, but I'm listening to our good friends in the Behind the Bema podcast, who we love, and thanks to them for the shouts to them. And I'm like, yeah, meaning Hashem has decided this game already. Like we're all set. Don't worry, they're gonna come in, and we got our yarmulkes. We're all good to go. And I think we learned an extremely valuable lesson for this. Meaning we are, if here's the sign, and just again, maybe we don't want to look ahead to Williams just yet, but Sunday is going to be a real test of where this team is at mentally, because we just got smacked in the mouth. I want to see these guys come out, get in Williams' grill.
By the way, not for nothing, but they held Ryan to 22. Okay, that's about 8 less than his average, right? They held Gabe a few below his average.
What did he shoot?
Ryan shot 8 of 15.
What did he shoot?
Ryan shot 8 of 15, so that's not really the issue. It just they were all over.
Really?
Okay. They
I
held
never would
8
have guessed that, honestly.
Considering. I thought he was
8 on 16, but Gabe only had 6. Fine. Ovek only had 5. That's huge. Ovek averages what? 13, 14 a game?
Had, like, no rebounds.
Gabe had like 5 rebounds. It was non-factor on the board.
Any
all the effort plays. Simi, you said there was a question from the chat?
Yeah, what do we got in the chat now?
Yeah, we got a question from the chat just on what rank do you think the Max drop to after this game?
It's a great question. I was just going to ask, like, do you think for all the voters that didn't vote YU, this is confirmation bias? Hey, they never belong there in the first place? Or do we
wait, when's the vote? Is it after Williams?
Yeah, it's after Williams.
It's going to
be on Sunday night.
If we lose on Sunday, we're not in the top 25. That's a fact.
That's unquestionable.
I disagree.
That's not true.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I also disagree with that. I mean, think about it, guys. These people put in their votes. 25. These people put in their votes, and they're putting their name and everything on this vote. If YU got a lot of number 1 votes and number 2 votes before now, then they're not going to think like, oh, I really didn't know what I was talking about. They're actually a crappy number 50 team because they lost these 2 games. They're going to say, I mean, like, unless YU gets completely blown out, which didn't really happen in this game. And I mean, if we don't expect that to happen in Williams' game, that could change it. But I don't think there'll be a tremendous drop, like out of the top 25. I don't think so. I think maybe
out of the top 10.
This is a 20-point first half, right? That turned into a 14-point game or whatever it finished as. It's not. This is not a 40-point, debacle. This is not a 40-point debacle at the hands of a cupcake either. This is maybe
some of it depends on Williams
in Division 3, right?
If we embarrass ourselves against Williams,
I don't think it does. I think they'll be in the top 25. I think the quote from Ryan Scott is almost telling you that, right? Which is, this is a talented team, and he said this, right? Like he thinks there are 100 teams that can win. I don't know, 100 teams that can win. You'll see that tomorrow, but they are still one of the most talented teams in the country. If we were voting just after this game, I would say they would drop to somewhere around 8 or 9. If I had to guess where they are, and you're going to see it because they're not going to get a number 1 vote. Meaning you're going to see the points drop significantly. 13 number 1 votes are going to turn to 0 number 1 votes. That's a huge point drop. I think if they lose the Williams game, you may see them drop into the top, the end of the top 20, maybe 15 or 16. But I still think they're much better than some of the teams that you're seeing in those numbers. I think Shua, I know you have similar thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'm basically with you. That's where I think they'll drop. I think even let's say worst case scenario, they somehow get blown out by Williams, they lose by 30, they'll still drop into 15 to 20 range, right? I'd presume. But just to get back to the game for a second and going forward. So we've been speaking about this all season, right? And I happen to have gotten lucky where I texted the group during the Washington game. I said if they play like this in the first half against IWU, they'll be down by 20 at half. And that's what happened. And then they couldn't come back from it. And it's exactly what happened. What is it that you think they need to adjust to be able to like come into games with
better
playing the way they play in the second half? They still don't seem to have learned the lesson when they've been seeing it game after game after game.
You hope that this was the lesson. I mean, you hope that like this shocks them into, mortality. And as much as they knew that they've been beating up on bad teams and that, it didn't really count. I think like in there, not that it didn't count, but it didn't mean what the record showed it meant. 50 wins is great, but it's not what it sounds like when you look at their opponents. It just isn't. So I think despite that, I did, I'll speak for myself. You still kind of like Ari said, like you think we do have this dream of like, wait a minute, maybe they're invincible. Like maybe we'll just beat everybody and just like take it all the way. But now that you see it, you're slapped in the face. You see that it's not the case. You hopefully see from the second half, like that you could compete with these people. You are a top ranked team amongst a group of other strong teams. That's what you are. You're not this monolith on its own, and then you're this like there's a lot of mystique when you never lose a game and you have a 50-game winning streak. There's a lot of and everything is on paper, and like how would they really match up against teams that we've never seen them play. Now it's like not on paper, it's on the court. We've seen it, and they could lose. So hopefully that's a lesson that kind of creeps into the psyche and helps enable some of that mental toughness for the future. As for actually what we saw on the court, like it goes back to the stuff we said. I think rebounding is a huge problem. They need to figure out having the right personnel on the court where they're not too small and they're not too big, and that's up for people smarter than me to figure out. But maybe they'll match up better with a lot of other teams.
Can they play? I think it begs the question. I think maybe this was part of the question. I think we keep going back to being like, hey, if they would just turn it on. Hey, if they would just turn it on. Hey, if they would just turn it on. I know we've talked about pro teams like that, right? The old Lakers and some of these teams, they can turn it on whenever they want. I saw a team in IWU tonight that, forget about YU for a second, they know how to play defense and they can play it. They came out at an intensity level, and they probably come out at an intensity level all the time. Listen, they lost to WashU and they probably were at the same intensity level. Do we think YU has the players that can actually come out at that level? I don't know that they can ever play IWU type lockdown man, but I have not seen them ever play lockdown man-to-man defense. We don't talk about our players in that way. I really want to throw this out to you guys. Like, I'm not sure we have the capabilities to do that.
So this is what I sorry. Go.
No, I was going to say, I agree with that. I think that if in a rematch, for example, if it came down to who's playing better defense, we're losing that game 10 out of 10. What we have is an offense that can run better than we ran it tonight. And I think the toughness is not just a question of can you lock them down like they're locked down. Like, look, IWU game is lockdown defense. They're not running anything special on offense. They've never scored over 90 points a game this season, if I'm not mistaken. We're averaging 91 points per game this season.
Look at their first half. It was unbelievable.
They had one game.
91 point game.
Right. So, but I'm saying, like, if we, in our case, like from an X's and O's standpoint, I mean, we needed to be much more disciplined in getting the ball into the post and making quick reads. We need to be much more disciplined into getting a shot and making a decision on a three. I think we also needed to be like, by the time Terrell figured out that he could beat Lambesis off the dribble and in the post, he was tired already and it was a little too late. I mean, even in the first half, which obviously was a lot more disappointing, there were a couple times where, I mean, he just had Lambesis beat with footwork and he missed a couple layups. But, I kind of thought, and I know Shua, you thought the same thing. That was gonna kind of be the key to YU coming back in after the initial, 8 or 9 point deficit, and just never materialized. And you kind of, saw the ball swinging around the wing a lot, to the point where the guys on the call for Max Live were observing, like, man, this is like really flying around the perimeter a lot.
Listen, we saw them warming up, and I want to hear what Yaakov has to say here, because I do think he has some key points to add. I just want to, they're in warm-ups, guys like guys like Yoder, they're going to shoot, even Mitchell to a certain extent, they're going to shoot 60%. And what they experienced in the game, for the most part, was like warm-up. And that's the question I have is can we, every time we were guarding a three, it was a recovery guard. Right, it was after a pick, it was after a roll, and it was trying to get back out of recovery and not closing hard enough. you saw the way that IWU was guarding the 3-point line. It wasn't on recoveries. I mean, they were there. They were there already. They were there on man. They weren't giving up the space. Even the ones we hit in the second half, there were guys with men in their face for the most part, maybe one or two open ones. So that's my question: is can we play that style of defense? But Yaakov, I know you have a couple points here.
Yeah, I just think that bottom line is we need to talk about the defense because this is not the NBA. You don't outscore people. This is college. College is about defense. And what it comes down to is we have the same size and the same physicality as the team we played tonight. We have the ability. No guy, you didn't go, whoa, that guy's 7 feet, 250. He's killing us in the post. That never happened. In fact, we probably had the advantage. If you line these guys up like it's a boxing fight, we are probably bigger and stronger. And we need to play defense like that. And that's it. That's what the whole season is going to come down to. And I think they can. They just have defense is all about effort, right? It's not about scheme. It wasn't a zone versus a man. It's about effort.
I think that it matters. The personnel matters. Like my opinion on the defense real quick is just like either we go big and like we could help take away some of that inside game, or we go small and we could take away the outside. The problem is when you face this balanced attack, these 5 guys on IWU complement each other so well. It's like, what do you do? So like you take Armstrong out and you have Lasko in, and then they've got Leyritz getting 25 rebounds. You could cram inside, and then you saw what happened at the very beginning of the game. They were hitting a million wide open shots. So it's kind of pick your poison with that team. I think that if they face most opponents, I hope that aren't as well balanced. Like, I don't know that, like, I almost feel like this team gave us a perfect amount of problems because they're so balanced, but we could match up A or B. We just can't put 5 guys on the floor that lock down every possible scenario. I don't think we can do.
Yeah, but we never talked about this. Shui, you mentioned like the game plan. I want to hear you like what you think, because you mentioned the game plan was right. Take out Leyritz and then sort of work on the rest of the guys. It was really obvious that they did a better job scouting our offense than we did scouting theirs. Well, at least to me. Even if you're picking that, right?
Right. But nothing. You have guys who were shooting 33% from 3, and we looked at the film on those shots. It's not like people were saying that against YU is wide open against everyone else. These were contested jumpers. These shots were uncontested that they were shooting 33% on. I could go through all the data of their games in the film. They shot a lot better than they had been all season, and they were trending downwards like Mitchell. And they shot much better in this game than we'd seen them all season. But getting back to the defense, I really don't think it's about the defense itself. And I go back to this time and again. If YU ends defensive possessions on the first miss, that already would have taken IWU from 72 points to 60 points. And it comes on every single game teams get second chance points against YU and get offensive rebounds, because YU doesn't. A lot of times they play a good defensive possession, and those are the most demoralizing. When you play a great defensive possession and you force a miss, and then they get an offensive rebound, and now you're in a scramble situation to try to guard it. I really want to see going forward YU not pay attention to like motion offense or defensive scheme. I want them to, every single shot that goes up, find the damn man and get a body on him. They don't do that, and they need to start doing.
You don't see boxing out,
and not at all. Like never.
What you saw, I don't know if you could see this, on the stream. I see this sometimes on the stream, depending on what it is. But there were a couple possessions, probably at least a handful, where you saw the rebound go off right into a no man's land territory, and you saw 2 or 3 guys looking at each other without going for the ball.
We saw it.
We saw somebody come in. It can't tell you how painful it is to watch.
They were praying for it to go out of bounds. I saw them dominate for it to go out of bounds. That's what happened.
Yeah, and also I think that their size, and athleticism, they could just pull down rebounds by getting a higher.
And we were praying for uncontested shots.
They just don't box out.
We also prayed for uncontested shots to miss. Also, we didn't get hands. No, we didn't get hands in the air. I don't think our footwork was as good as it could have been. I think we were praying the whole game instead of executing.
I mean, look, if just to sit back a second, because I agree with all of this. And by the way, shouts to Drew96 in the chat, who's seeing the same things on screen as we are about shutting down Terrell and Gabe. But if we just settle down for a second, look at the second half. So with it's the same IWU team with the same intensity. They shot 1 for 9 from 3 in the second half, right? So they shot 11% from 3 in the second half. It wasn't like YU had dialed up the defense, but certainly not to IWU levels. So we dialed it up a little bit, got our head in for the second half. When we shot 5 for 11, we shot 45% from 3. That's pretty good. We outscored them. The thing that killed us, and this is, I think, speaks to Shua's point, is we got mauled on the offensive boards. We got mauled on the defensive boards. I mean, we were playing better. We were playing that motion. We beat them out in assists. I mean, all the offensive categories, we were playing our motion. Again, we did outscore them. But what crushed us, again, was not finishing possessions. And I think it comes down to some X's and O's. It does. And it comes down to coaching. I think we've thought on or speculated on this show before that, and we've worried amongst ourselves, is there anything happening in practice other than the motion offense? And, it's something to think about, but there's a mental toughness element to that also. I mean, having the discipline, the intensity to know that on every shot you body your man, that's a mental toughness and intensity thing too. And
Ari, we got some breaking news.
Let's do it.
It's not great. It's not great.
Uh-oh.
It's not great.
Is it Lasco?
No, it's just Williams. Williams' game has been postponed. I think they just postponed the 2 games, but they just announced that the Williams game is being postponed. So it's as much as
I wish they just had
I
wish they played IWU again. Cancel the Williams game.
Back to back, right? I would love to see that. Love to see that.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I'm not surprised. Williams was looking for an excuse to do this. If YU had beaten IWU, then they look like they wussed out of a game against us. But now and they would want a chance to knock us off the streak. Everybody does. You saw IWU come into this like their Super Bowl, but now that we're just another team, I think this was their excuse.
We'll confirm that. We'll share it. We'll share it on Ball Habatim when we get it. But we'll confirm that. But we're hearing that on the line. If anybody sees it on Twitter, feel free to post it.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen.
I was just asked. Sorry, why didn't we press at all? Not a question on the chat, but a private question.
Awesome.
Why didn't we press?
We don't press. We don't press. We don't practice it. It seems like. Sure. What have you seen us?
No,
I mean, Jews get pressed. We don't have the athleticism to press.
That's what
I can't help but go back, Shua, to like the personnel for the rebounding. Like, I know we want to train and practice and stuff, but like, I can't help but think that it's a function of who's on the court. And I hate to ask this, like, because he's got a lot of great parts to his game, but like, is Armstrong like not a great rebounder? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if he's the right choice to like always have inside defense if like he's not going to win a rebound matchup.
Watch the film. They even Gabe has like his hands just swallow up any ball that comes to them. But Gabe does not box out at all. None of them do. And like I personally like very strongly believe rebounding for the most part is a lot more about the fundamentals of getting a body, because I am 5'10" and I would keep guys 6'4", 6'5" out of the paint and way out rebound them when I used to play.
Do you think they could? You think they could be coached?
Team rebounding in a man-to-man. Yes, team rebounding in a man-to-man is all about body and positioning. It's all about body and positioning. That's what you're trying to do. And it's not about height. I mean, it can help, right, if you're a good rebounder, but no, I don't think Armstrong can clean the glass. I don't think we've seen him even against teams that are shooting under 40%. You don't see him with double-digit rebounds.
The more I think about it.
As someone who's been boxed out by Natan at Yeshiva Noam can confirm.
This is just doesn't it start from Doesn't it start from the fact that we put no man on the line ever? We never try for an offensive rebound on the line.
Yeah.
But that's different. That's different.
Why is that
Offensive rebounding
different?
very
It's a
different
mentality,
skill than
though.
defensive rebounding.
But again, at the
Defensive
end of the day,
rebounding, usually, if you're
It's cocky.
if you're
when you don't
boxing
do
out, you're because you're between your man and the basket, you're always in a better position to get a rebound unless there's a weird bounce. So
agreed. They never man up for the box out. They never man up because you know why?
I think Yakov's saying
guards don't get rebounds
they
on
shy
this
away
team.
from
But yeah,
contact.
guards don't get rebounds.
Right.
So
I mean,
yeah.
You're saying the foul line decision, right, is like, yeah, it may be a better decision percentage-wise, but in a game where we just watch them be physically out-muscled, right, you start to, get used to contact and give yourself more opportunities, for contact. Again, I wouldn't equate the two, but I think is spot on.
Look, if you're down,
position yourself.
if you're down like we were in the second half, maybe we put a big man on the line, get an offensive rebound there. Maybe I'm just,
Yes, I think the press is that question
that's
is
not where
more
you're
like
gonna benefit.
Right.
We were getting
The question is,
dominated.
how do you
on the
speed up?
defense.
Right. You wanted to know. I think part of the question in the press really is, how can you speed up the game? Right. When you need more possessions. Right. How can you speed up the game to get more possessions? And Moshe, I think you mentioned this before. About 5 minutes, you started to see. Even though that's their style going forward, right? They do that. They play a little slower. But at 5 minutes, you started to see them intentionally kill clock, right? Which is, by the way, again, a smart move. Anyways, it plays into their offense, right? Because they just want because YU is also chasing, right? And if you're trying to get Layers on the post or someone on a drive, you love when YU is over, is chasing and opening those lanes for you. It makes sense, but YU has never been in the position that we've seen them in, 50 games or so to need to speed up possession. So it comes down to what they practice, what they're ready for, and the ability to do it. You cannot press on the fly. That's like giving up 2 points every play. You can't just go into a press if you don't practice it.
So listen, guys, I think we've all, obviously, not the outcome we were expecting, but
it's group therapy, bro.
Yeah, exactly. This is listen, as Rob Perez on NBA Twitter says, this is a safe place. Let it out. So let's look forward now. I mean, we may not have a Williams game to look forward to, but YU, if we're gonna make a run in the tournament and have a shot at a national championship, what needs to happen from here on out? I mean, Moshe, you want to start us off?
Got to make shots. First of all, we have to stay with our game plan. I think we kind of got away from our game. I know some people disagree with me, but I think we kind of got away from our game plan a little bit. And that might have been a play on words game plan. I didn't see Gabe in the high post as much distributing. He didn't have himself a game. I think we had mental errors. I think we did not capitalize on errors that they did. So we just have to tighten up. I know we have a huge break now before the next game. It's about 4 weeks. I believe it's the 26th is the next game, so almost 4 weeks. So it's a lot of,
yeah.
Whatever, regardless. But it's a few weeks. It's the long break that we have every year, and I think how we come out of the gate is crucial, no matter who we're playing, just the rest of the season.
I hope we're playing on the 24th. Health, who knows what happens next 4 weeks.
Sure. What are your thoughts?
26. It's the 26th against Mount St. Mary's.
Yeah. I mean,
all right.
I really want to see them because this second half is going to be, again, it's going to be outside of whenever the Williams game happens, it's going to be a lot of teams that they could beat without playing great basketball. I want to see them have a specific focus on fundamentals against every one of those teams. Treat each one of these teams as if they're more talented than YU, and YU has to win the dirty battle to win those games. And I want to see them come out every single game like that. Every single game, you could be playing a team who everyone's 5'5". I want to see every single person be boxed out before you go for the rebound. And you do that in all these games where you're probably gonna beat the team anyway. And then when you come into a game where it's actually necessary, you're in that mindset.
Natan, thoughts?
You know what? I'm going to go the other way. I think the biggest thing right now is don't overreact. I think there's a danger in overreacting, especially without Williams here. Listen, there are clearly things they need to work on, both mentally and then execution-wise. They can do it. They have the talent. They have to start practicing it. I think the challenge is going to be you're now going to go back into a schedule where nobody cares who you play, right? You're going to have to make yourself care who you play. You're going to have to come out and win these games, win every single one of these games in order to be able to make the tournament, right? Because if you slip up, that's where you start to see you're knocked out of the top 25. Again, I think they make the tournament regardless, but you have to win. You have to close out strong. They have to work on those things, but I think it's going to be tough, right? The balance of take it game by game, but they're playing teams they're not going to play come March. How do they practice and prep and use these Skyline games and Skyline Conference tournament games to prepare themselves for the tournament? I think that's going to be really tough.
Simi, thoughts?
The hell out of them.
Yeah.
I think, like I've been saying a few times, so I won't repeat too much. The more I think about it, I think this opponent they played tonight is a uniquely tough challenge for YU because they're very balanced both inside and out, and that we can kind of handle one or the other, but not both. But anyway, hopefully, I just hope that with many other teams, we won't have that challenge. We could still be one of the best teams. I think the biggest thing, in addition to what everyone else was talking about, that we need to work on is, it's funny, Natan said, don't overreact. And you meant, I know what you meant, and that's true too, like with don't overreact to the game. But like the way we overreact to participate within the game, when there's a foul or when there's adversity in the game or when the other team goes up by 15, it's important to be mentally tough and like to play with emotion. But I feel like we have the worst of both worlds. Like we're extremely emotionally invested. So like when it comes to toughness, like it's just not there. So like as soon as we face any adversity, the team seems to like get into its own head. They're under our skin. We're lashing out. We're getting technicals. We're having one-on-ones with the refs. We can't have that. We need to be more robotic a little bit. Like it's important to play with emotion while at the same time, like playing with discipline. And sometimes those two things are kind of like opposites. They don't have either one going right now. They need to work on both. And that's, I think, what we mean when we talk about the mental part of the game. So hopefully that's something that's coachable and fixable, and something that also hopefully comes with experience. Like I can say again, I hope that this experience helped them. Losing could be good. We've talked about that before too. Like it might not be the worst thing in the world to see them lose a game. And we'll learn a lot the next time they take the court and we see how they handle and how they react and how they buckle down now that they've been a little bit humbled. I think Ryan said that on the Behind the Beam. It's like,
be humble.
Be humble or get humbled. And they got humbled tonight. So now hopefully they'll be humble, right? So
great line.
Let's see what happens.
It's a great line. Yaakov, you still with us? What do you got?
So I think I was going to say something else, but I think Shua really spoke to the point is they need to take these games and to me, they need to just man up on defense every single game. I don't care who the opponent is. Play them like they're the best team in the country. Win by 50 in the first half. Who cares? You just come out there and destroy them. And just from being the man of the streets, I will say that from the people that did not get into the crowd tonight, there is a lot of people, not just for this game, but who are super pumped for the Max to go all the way this year. And they're not jumping off the bandwagon just because of this loss. They were talking about showing up 2 hours early, 3 hours early on Sunday. Sunday may not happen now, but they're still going to be there. We have there's a real fan base that wants to see this team go all the way. And I still think we have the talent to do it. We just got to D up and do that. That's it.
On behalf of the bandwagon boys, I could not agree more. This train is a rolling, baby. Listen, this is if you'll pardon the Torah interruption. I mean, listen, this is the Shemos story. This was Vayamaru es Chayim ba'avoda kasha. I mean, we were given a workover tonight by a very, very tough team, and I think that the task at this point is we have to actually ask ourselves, listen, what do we want out of this season? What we want is a national championship. Every single possession from now until the end of March is prepping for that national championship. I completely agree with what Shua said. It's boxing out 5'5" guys on Old Westbury like this is Randolph-Macon. It is playing every possession. It's Ryan Terrell going off against guys like he's being guarded by Lambesis. I mean, this is gut check time now. I mean, this is a question of the kind of team we want to be, because believe you me, every team from the Midwest to NESCAC to all over the country right now, they are looking at us like we are all flash, no spark, and they're not wrong to have that. But listen, this puts us right back in the seat where we Jews are most comfortable, and that is we're back in the David seat now. We're out of the Goliath
underdog.
We're back in the David seat. This is where we thrive. So the question is now, are we willing to pull in that work? So
we love being the 100-1 odds. That's it.
Exactly.
This is where we thrive.
Exactly.
I got 4 words. I got 4 words for everybody here.
Close it out, baby.
Next streak starts now.
Heck
All
yes.
right.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Tune in after every game. We're also going to be dropping some stuff even during the down periods. Also, we're going to have some great guests. We're going to have some great content. The bandwagons are rolling, baby. This train is unstoppable. Like Nathan said, next streak starts now. Every possession from now is a national championship game. On behalf of the Ball Habatim, thank you so much for joining us. And look out for our Williams preview dropping pending whether the game is happening. But regardless, we had a great conversation with Ryan Scott, who I now have heard from official sources is currently enjoying Chulent on Amsterdam Avenue. So
hey,
that's
all right.
that's
I just wanted to say something about the
Mayor
game
Wizell.
tonight.
Let's get it.
This was my first game at the MSAC in a long time, and I just want to say that I've been to some pretty big games. I've been to the World Series and other big events, and the atmosphere was right up there with anything I've ever been to. The crowd was intense. The fact that there were like literally hundreds of people outside who could not get in. It just was.
Sorry, Yaakov.
It really was an intense atmosphere. Everybody was on every single play. Like, you could not have asked for a more attentive crowd. People were like so stoked to be in the gym for that. I really hope that other top D3 programs who may have been dodging YU will see all the social media and buzz that this game created, and will maybe take a look at trying
Maybe we'll get some games now.
That's what I'm hoping. Even though we lost and it wasn't as competitive as we would have hoped, I'm hoping other D3 programs will take notice of how much buzz this got, and will reconsider putting YU on their schedules, whether it's here or in another area that has a large Jewish community. I'm talking to you, Johns Hopkins. But I just want to give out shout out to everybody involved who put on this game, because it was a real intense international. We had 2 Israeli outlets here, so it was a real international event, and it was really, really cool to see, and not something anybody who was here will soon forget.
Not to put it better, the mighty Mayor Wizell on the 1s and 2s, bringing us out. I love it. Gentlemen from the Ball Habatim, this has been a sobering but still fun hour with you guys. Join us next time. Like, subscribe, and have an amazing Shabbos.
Shabbos, boys and girls.
We did it!
Mayor, those points are fantastic. We really probably should have started off with that. Honestly, they got the game on.